Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com, and we're going to go over every single weapon in Dynasty Warriors Origins. I've been playing over 100 hours in early access before the game released. I've played all of the weapons. I want to give you an idea of how they work, the playstyle, best skills / battle arts for them, different combos you can use, pros and cons, etc. Now, this is going to be a longer video, hopefully, because there are a lot of mechanics, and if you're like me and we're unfamiliar with the Dynasty Warriors series, you're probably not going to know what to do and what's going on. So I'm going to start with the basics. Timestamps are going to be below if you want to skip ahead to certain individual weapons or parts of this video just for ease. But if you get something out of it, please consider hitting that thumbs up. It does help the channel. Hit subscribe and leave me a nasty comment on how I'm an AI voiceover. I love reading them. Let's get started. Okay, so weapons in Dynasty Warriors Origin. There are 10. Now, when you first start the game, you're only going to have one, which is the sword. Unlike other games, your weapons are essentially your class, and you don't have them all accessible at the start. Through the campaign and finding them and or buying them at the store, you're going to unlock new ones, with one specific only being introduced to you after you beat the campaign. So what I want to understand is that there's a lot of post-game content for this game where you can repeat the stories on a higher difficulty and earn cool weapons, specifically the epic rarity. So don't just assume that you beat the game and it's over. There is a lot more to do, and if you really like the combat and the characters and the stories, you're going to want to min-max those weapons, get the most out of them, and play with all 10 of them. Okay, the sword is up first. So first weapon you unlock by default, and you can use it through the entire game. It's so much fun. I love it. Quick pro cons on it. You're going to have a really good combo that is kind of a long one, but you can stun lock NPCs up in the air. It has really good battle arts that are going to be locked later, and it's just a fun gameplay. Kind of the downsides here are the combos are long, so require about 6 buttons in order to execute the optimal combo. It's going to be weak, strong attacks, and it's going to have shorter range. So even though it's a beginner weapon, once you progress, this is going to be really, really good. So the initial battle arts you're going to get, Swallow Slash, is good for AoE damage to Bravery, goes right in front of you. Falcon Flurry is going to be nice single target because it's going to slash the targets in front of you. This is great for burning down officers. And then you have a couple of options. I would go with a mobility one. You could do Mad Blade Rush or Whirlwind Kick. That's going to help you with mobility. And then you can do Palm Strike for an interrupt. Now, as you progress, the most OP skill one is the Divine Eagle Dance. This thing is massive AoE in its 360 radius. You're going to unlock this a little bit later, but this really scales the power of the sword because it's massive area. Once you master it, it's only 6 bravery cost. So the sword is going to use this 4-button combo where you do 4 normal attacks and 2 strong attacks. That combo is going to launch someone up in the air and then doing free damage to them, rinse and repeat. So you don't need a whole lot of bravery for the sword to be effective because that combo is so strong. Therefore, you save up your bravery and drop an absolute nuke with Divine Eagle Dance. Once you get this skill, the entire game is a lot easier with the sword, trust me. All right, next up is the Spear. So the Spear is the second weapon unlocked, and you get it pretty early in the game. You can buy the weapon from the shop in the starting area after this battle. I can't even pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try, but you're going to get it pretty quick. Now, it comes with some crap skills, battle arts, in my opinion, but unlocks some really good ones pretty early on. Quick pros and cons. The damage is going to be in the front. It's going to do a lot of damage. It's great one-on-one, it's defensive, and it really focuses on airborne attacks. Some of the downsides, it's not going to have that 360 AoE right away. It's going to start a bit slower, and the combos aren't as complex or as powerful, in my opinion, as others on this list. So the very first beginnings skills that you're going to get, battle arts, this Piercing Vengeance is a counterattack stance. Now you can get a universal one. This is kind of goofy. You have to sit around and wait. I put it on my bar and was misclicking all the time and found it super ineffective. Wild Rush is going to be a charge forward for 2 bravery that does good damage. This is fantastic early on for mobility, and you can use it in the air. And then you're going to have Spree of Devastation. This is going to do some AoE for 2 bravery, but these skills aren't that good. Now, Dance with Whirlwind's a really good one. This is going to do some AoE around you, but really it's focused on frontal, nuking specific officer. Now, the one that makes it really good is Jumping in the Air Rising Dragon Vortex, because you want to be airborne with this individual build, and once you get this, you want to lower the fortitude on the officers and lift them up in the air. So some of the combos with this, you're going to press this a strong attack 3 times in a row. That's pretty strong. And at the very end, you can just spam click it and it's going to do AoE damage in front of you. Make sure that you're not being pressed or hit at that time or it'll be interrupted. The best combo that you want to do is holding the block down and pressing F. This will strike the ground and lift enemies up in the air. So kind of the combo that you want to do is lift them up in the air and then spam that 3-button combo to keep them in the air and blasting on them. Once you get that ability to knock enemies up in the air, this becomes a lot more prevalent. There's also a gem that allows you to do more damage while you're in the air. Vortex, super helpful with this type of weapon. The staff, the spear, and kind of the lance are almost all the same type of weapon in concept. So just keep that in mind. Defensive, knock in the air. Next up is the Gauntlets. This is my least favorite weapon of all, and the reason why is you have this really goofy mechanic as far as stances. So there's multiple stances, and when you hit the F button, you're going to have a 1 or 2 second little delay, and then you can either strong attack or light attack. But accessing the other stances is clunky, and it's just a goofy mechanic versus other weapons where I can just 3-button combo or 4-button combo a strong attack. So what holds it back is really the strong attack switching stance. It's very odd and clunky, and maybe I just can't play it right. The weapon's going to have good counterattack built in. It's going to have quick side arts, which that animation, the duration of the animation leaving you vulnerable on higher difficulties is really important. But it's not going to have the range, it's going to be complex, and those combos are kind of weak. So when you very first get this unlocked, you're going to have Elbow Strike, kind of a garbage skill in my opinion. It's just 2 bravery and it's not that good. Stone Strike Blast is really good. The reason why is it's a quick acting burst in front of you. So this is going to be the one you're going to rely on quite early in the game. Later on, you're going to unlock Hurricane Kick, which is mobility and AoE damage for 3 bravery. This can be helpful, but you're not going to move that far. And then finally, you're going to have Wrath of Earth. This is really good AoE and it's quick. So 360 radius, this will help your damage out tremendously. So again, this is kind of an odd weapon that I don't care for because I don't like the stances. So what you try to do is essentially enter into the tiger stance and smash them in front of you. And similar, try to get them airborne, which is a bit harder to do. And that's when you got to enter the serpent stance. So holding block F and then hitting the normal attack to get them in the air. This holding block and F, you will see throughout this video, is kind of the mechanism for knocking enemies in the air, making them easier to kill. Next weapon up is the wheels, and I thought this weapon was terrible until I started facing officers that were using it and absolutely nuking me. It is very, very good. So the goofy thing with the wheels is I didn't understand the heavy attack mechanic, or strong attack rather. What happens is you throw out your wheels, and as it's coming back, right as it's about to touch you, if you activate the strong attack again, it will shoot out red wheels and do free damage. The strength of the wheel is it's going to have delayed bursts, so you can stack up damage on top and just absolutely melt something. It's going to have range, and that secondary activation. If you're really good with timing, it's a great way to do tons of damage passively without using battle arts. It's going to be a bit squishy. You feel like you're a bit weaker survivability-wise. It's going to have a lot of time dependent, and it's going to be a slow start. So when you very first start out, the skills aren't necessarily amazing. The one I like is the Crawling Dragon. It's going to have this delayed mechanic, 2 bravery. So what I do is I throw this up in the air, then I chuck out strong attack-wise my wheels. I wait for them to come back, and I activate them, and then it just boom, bursts them all down. You can Claw of the Predator, which kind of pulls enemies in. Kind of odd since you want them to be away. Now, eventually, after doing, I think, a companion quest, you get the Twin Tiger Blast. This is one of the most fun skills in the game. It's huge AoE. One of the companions do it, and it's just amazing damage. So it costs 8 bravery by default, which is a huge amount, and the animation is a bit long, so you have to be careful when you're using this. It's not 360 AoE, but it almost one-shots officers. So what I do with the wheels is I build up bravery just by using light and heavy attack mechanics. And then when the wheels come back, I'm executing that strong attack again just to get the red wheels. Then I'm blasting with Twin Tiger Blast if I need to burst something down. Very good weapon. Next up is another weapon I can't pronounce. Podao? I don't know, Rodeo, something like that. This weapon I really like. It's more of a chunky, heavy, bigger sword. So you have a 6 normal attack combo, but the 3 attack combo is really good, where you just hit the strong attack 3 times in a row. It also has a charge mechanic, so this weapon wants you to sit there and charge. Charging is good and bad. So you have to sit there for a couple of seconds and charge and hope no one hits you, hypothetically. Other weapons do this better, specifically the lance, but it's a good way to do some AoE passively if you can time it correctly and charge and do this massive swinging attack. This weapon is going to be able to build bravery quickly. It's going to have some great battle arts, and if you can get that charge mechanic down, it's great. But it's going to have long animations, somewhat limited range, and it's really strong attack dependent and battle art dependent. So some of my favorite skills, Dragon Sweep Slash, you get right away. It's only 2 bravery, but it hits really good in a massive wide radius, so good AoE skill. I spammed this Bounding Earth Strike a lot, so it does built-in AoE, it has a gap closer, and it does a shockwave sending enemies flying. It's perfect to launch towards an officer, but this thing can miss. So you have to be really careful to make sure you're aiming correctly. And then Blade Typhoon. This is going to do a delayed burst similar to the wheel. And this is really nice because you can fire it off and it kind of staggers the enemies for a few seconds, allowing you to do your heavy attack combo or something else, even doing a couple of normal attacks to build up some bravery. And it's a good AoE in front of you, but you'll notice most of this is in front of you. So rely on those big, chunky, strong attacks to build up bravery, and then flood in some of those battle arts to whittle down the fortitude. Next up is the staff. So this is going to have insane mobility, the most mobile of all the weapons. It's going to, similar to the spear, focus on airborne attacks, great 1v1. It's going to lack some high damage battle arts, and it's going to be super airborne dependent, and combos are a bit weaker. So you can see there's not a whole lot of combos here. It wants you to hold down the strong attack button a lot. And the same input here is launch enemies into the air. The difference is you need to hold block and then hold strong attack. Now, the strength is, though, once you get these combos launched off, if you sit there and hold that strong attack or do some normal attacks, it will lock them in the air. This is a great airborne weapon. The first couple of skills are actually pretty strong. So Brutal Barrage is going to do a shockwave in front of you, good AoE. This Ruinous Wave is really low cost and quick animation burst. The best skill to get, though, is this Vaulting Leap, and the reason why is going to catch enemies up in the air. Once you launch them in the air, you can keep on attacking, and it's only 1 bravery, so this really starts to pick up once you get this skill. This Thrashing Inferno Sweep is also really good. It launches in front and you can just sit there and hold it. So the premise of the staff is holding the heavy attack or holding down these buttons, and that's how you produce damage and knock enemies in the air. Next weapon up is Twin Pikes. This is my favorite and what I consider the strongest of all the weapons you can unlock in the campaign. It's the 7th one to be unlocked. So the reason why it's so strong is you have this heavy attack mechanic where you put your Twin Pikes in the ground and it shockwaves puts enemies up in the air. So it's a bit easier to actually execute this. Once you do this, and this is including officers, you can sit there and spam the strong attack button for like 5 or 6. You'll absolutely destroy officers and bosses in one-on-ones or duels. And that's what makes the Twin Pike so strong, is you're not relying on battle arts for damage. It has the best strong attacks, in my opinion, besides the Halberd. And it builds bravery quickly because you're not spamming battle arts for damage. Now, the key is, though, is the animation is a bit long and clunky, so you have to get used to jabbing these Twin Pikes in the ground. Moreover, if you're moving slightly forward, you'll start running forward and slashing your Twin Pikes, so you have to really be cognizant of planting down, launching them up in the air, and just stun locking them in the air. You'll just nuke everything. And the battle arts can miss, so sometimes the battle arts whiff, and it's not the best. Now, when it comes to the battle arts, the very first couple are really awesome. You're going to do just a wide AoE with double bite and its big 360 area. And then Roaring Maelstrom is one of my favorites. So it shoots this tornado off, but you don't want to do this to officers that are right by you. This is the one that can whiff a lot of times. How I typically use this is I wait for an officer to attack me and I'll parry or dodge and get a little bit of distance, 2-3 meters, and then I'll activate it when they're kind of staggered. It'll knock them up in the air, it'll allow me to get closer to them, and then I plant my twin pikes in the ground and just launch them up in the air. Later on, you're going to get some other skills. One of my favorites here is Battle Roar, so that's just going to boost your damage passively. It doesn't cost health or nothing. So if you're just going to do the heavy attack mechanic stun lock thing, you activate Battle Roar and you'll see your strong or normal attacks just chunk the fortitude and health out of these enemies. There are some high cost ones like Sky Sunder. This is pretty nice, but I just found that it was easier to use Battle Roar and using the strong attack combo. Shadow Rush is also a really powerful mobility tool. So this thing has everything you want. If you're struggling with a specific fight, I'd highly recommend using Twin Pikes. It's one of the best weapons in the game. Next up is the Lance. So this is a pretty good weapon as well. Now what the Lance wants to do is kind of unique. It has a charge / counterattack thing built in. So what it wants you to do is just hold this strong attack down and wait for enemies to attack you. And then once they attack you, you unleash this massive AoE Lance nuke. And so you'll get this Endure pop-up, and the longer you hold it, the more damage you'll do. I think it's 2 levels. You'll hear a beep and see your character kind of flash red. And then you're going to unload and just nuke things down. It also has the built-in hold block and then hold the F key to launch enemies up in the air. Essentially, it's just a more powerful spear that has a counterattack built in and has upgraded launching capabilities. It doesn't have as much mobility as the staff, but it's pretty good. It's balanced, great combos. That built-in counterattack is super helpful, but you do have to hold it down, and it's going to be a little bit longer animations. When it comes to the skills, the first couple of skills are really good. So Spirit Wave is going to do a frontal, a bit of damage. This is kind of what I use for officers early on. And then Skirmisher Strike also is frontal damage. And then you're going to get Crushing Earth Gambit, and that's going to be big AoE. But you can see the animation is a bit longer on this one. So you have to be careful, and it's also going to shoot out in front of you. So you got to make sure that the officer or your target is getting nuked right where you want them to be. And then it'll keep raining down debris over time. So it's a really good one-on-one skill to use. Vengeful Stormquake, you'll unlock a little bit later. And so what's really good with the Lance is you're holding down your strong attack frequently, so you don't really need a whole lot of bravery. So what I do with this is I save up a bunch of bravery and I just hold this button down, the battle art, and it'll just keep swinging. Every rotation will consume 2 bravery, but the amount of damage this does when you need it is amazing. Also, it's helpful once you master it out because you just don't get staggered. So you can just keep on swinging and blast everything. Also, this doesn't have like an OP, super powerful, high cost battle art skill. Just so you know, there are ones that you can get in the individual skill trees. So a couple of high cost ones that you can get access to. This Ice Lawn, I think is what it's called, is a huge shockwave, super long, massive 8 cost, and it can stop and interrupt attacks. I don't personally like this one. The one I like in the master rank is Peacebringer. So this is going to be a 6, and it's going to summon a Ring of Light, beam, shoot enemies up in the air, also very helpful. It does have a long animation, but really good AoE damage. So if you're lacking something in your specific weapon kit, feel free to come and take and experiment with some of these skills. Okay, the last weapon unlocked in the campaign is a Crescent Blade. So this is a real big chunky, similar to the Podao or whatever you call it. So it's going to have really hard hitting battle arts, massive area damage, and its simple combos. Basically, it's just a little bit more damage than the other big weapon and has a little bit more utility, but it's going to have super slow animation. It's reliant on these long combos and slow mobility. So the difference is you're going to hold this F key and you're going to have upgrade level 1, upgrade level 2. Now, the upgrade level 1 and 2, when I'm experimenting with it, doesn't seem that much different in terms of the damage that I'm producing. I don't know if this is going to get patched or changed, but it doesn't seem worth it in comparison to other weapons to sit there for 3 seconds and hold down the strong attack versus just spamming 4 strong attacks. The unique thing here is that you can go back and forth from normal and strong attacks. So it wants you to basically just swing really wide in this 360 radius and not rely so much on battle arts, but just doing this infinite chain of combos using strong and or normal attacks. So one of my favorite skills in the game really is this bursting wave slash. It's one of the first skills you unlock, and I basically just use this over and over and over when I'm leveling this weapon. And it's for bravery, and it shoots down a shockwave in front of you, sending enemies flying. So this is one of those skills where you don't necessarily want to be on top of the officer and fire it off. You want to be a little bit farther back. But for whatever reason, for bravery, it seems like it absolutely shreds every ounce of fortitude. And it's hard not to just use this on repeat. It also has a really unique skill called Mistwalk, which it basically allows you to evade attacks right before they hit. This is super useful in specific boss fights when they glow red and can't be interrupted. This is kind of the confusing skill that I use, Adamantium Flesh, which helps you increase your upgrade levels for a set amount of time, meaning that hold that heavy attack. I used and experimented with this, but just couldn't get it to work properly. I may be missing something on this weapon. This one is unlocked the Azura Dragon Bellows via one of the companions and kind of completing his side quest. And this is amazing AoE. 360 sucks everything in and really makes the weapon shine later on in the end game. So don't skip those companions. Make sure that you're increasing their bonds and completing their objectives, because you can unlock sweaty, cool battle arts like this one. Next up, last but certainly not least, the Halberd. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. It's amazing. There's so much to say about this. So you're going to unlock this and you get this Ultimate Warrior difficulty, and it's super difficult. And you have these challenges where you can get cool horses, new battle arts, new weapons, like everything. This weapon just has everything built into it. So you have the normal mechanics where you hold block and then F, and you're going to sweep your halberd across the area. The coolest thing that I found straight away is that if you evade forward and then you hit your strong attack, you like jump and leap forward. Not only that, you do damage. And then doing evade alone does damage. So you have just insane mobility built in that does damage and doesn't cost any bravery. You also have a built-in pull, so you can do 4 normal attacks and then 1 strong attack, or just like me, a sweaty button presser, spam 5 strong attacks uninterrupted and it sucks everything in. And if you do 1 more strong attack, it will slam down everything. You can literally just be a spammer on your strong attack and do massive AoE damage. You also have the holding down the F key, which sends a shockwave and enemies flying. And so you have some easy ways to get enemies knocked up. If that weren't good enough, the skills are absolutely obnoxiously good too, right? So you have this Sky Crusher. So you're going to jump up in the air and slam down. It's for bravery. Another skill that you don't want the officer to be right on top of you or you'll whiff. But this is really helpful because you avoid attacks while the animation's firing off. This will be one of the kind of recurring themes. If you're in the air, the animation's going, you're unlikely to get hit and interrupted. Now, this Force Quake is a super risky one that I don't use because it gives you attack power and attack speed, but it consumes your health. So you have to be really careful with this one. Menacing Tempest, it's a bit slower of a mobility skill, but does good damage while you're going forward. I avoid this because you're going to have tons of mobility built in anyways with your evade strong attack mechanic. And a lot of these skills are unlocked immediately, purchasing them from the store. So after you complete the campaign, immediately go to the store and buy a bunch of these skills. I love the Skyblaze skill. So you jump up in the air, slash, and then slam down. Now, the mechanic here is you're up in the air for quite a bit. So if you get an enemy up in the air, you can use this, or you can use this to pop them up in the air or attack and avoid damage. I have to say, though, Defiance Shockstorm is probably my favorite ability, and it sucks enemies in a tornado and gathers them around. Also, it pops enemies up, and it's only 2 bravery. So you can do crazy combos with this using both battle art skills after you cast this, or light or strong attack combos, and just keep enemies up in the air, and it locks them all in 360 radius. The best AoE skill, in my opinion, is this Hellraiser. It's going to slam down and do AoE in a massive 360 radius. The caveat with using this skill is it's about a 2-second animation. So when you're engaged with the enemy, you don't want to use this. How I use this is if I stagger a officer and I get a small window where they're not going to hit me, or they're quite a ways away, but I know they're going to come towards me, then I'll use it. The final skill that you unlock, and I forgot how I get this, but it's Dance with Demons. It's 6 bravery and does this massive, like super long animation that basically wraps every single skill up into one. A lot of times this might even be overkill for some of the bosses and officers because other skills just are so easy to use and simple. But if you absolutely need to nuke something, this is the one to use. Now, another benefit of using the Halberd is when you activate your War God Rage mode or whatever it's called, you'll basically do a massive AoE damage around you and you'll be slowed. But if you hit that evade into strong attack, you'll like zoom off in a teleport and do damage. So even activating your ultimate and entering God mode is even more powerful than any other weapon. So you got to use this on the hardest difficulty. And let me summarize what weapons would be attractive to who. So for beginners, I highly recommend using the sword and sticking with it for quite a while until you unlock that really powerful ability. It's super helpful. You can augment the weakness like mobility and counterattack by using battle arts via the skill trees. So the sword, even though it's the beginning weapon, it's very, very strong and the combos are amazing with it. So consider ranking that up. If you like mobility, the staff is going to be the fastest moving around the battlefield, knocking enemies up. If you like range, the wheels are going to be really good, along with activating that secondary strong attack to get some passive damage boost. If you want one-on-one or an officer killer, twin pikes. That's my absolute favorite for completing the campaign and having the strongest weapon in my opinion. And then you have the lance, which is really good for counterattacks and defense gameplay. You sit there and hold your strong attack down, someone attacks you, and you blast them. When you want to complete the hardest content in the game, the Halberd is for you. Well, gang, hopefully this helped you out, understanding the weapons and how to use them. I'm still learning and growing playing this game, really enjoy it. So if you got something out of this video, do me a big favor, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Thanks for watching.